I've been in the marketing space, believe it or not, for 23 years. And I made my first dollar online in '01, and I made my first million online in '05. The more high tech we go, the more high touch we desire. And I think that from our world, we used to teach how to sell information, right?
Yeah.
How to sell, and then that guru or that expert is the person that's going to teach you the expertise. Well, now with Chatty, that's really kind of like dropped. I went into Chatty and said, you are an expert trainer, you're an IFBB bodybuilding pro, I am this, my body weight's this, my body, all the details. Give me a 3-week split of a workout, and it like busted it out. And I'm like, trainers now really are, all they really are is accountability and community. What happened with this book, it was taking everything that I've done for 20 years and helping other people create platforms and create my own platform and how do you put that in a box? How do you put that in a box? So it's really the UnCage formula, uncage yourself, but the sub headline is kind of says it everything. The fearless method to turn your knowledge into market influence, impact, and income to live a badass life of ultimate freedom. If I rewrote this headline for today, I would just add one word, which is
Hi, and welcome to the 91-Day AI Transformation Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and today I've got with me Heather Havenwood. And Heather and I actually just met. She was a referral that came over to me, and we were just talking pre-show about where'd that come from and everything else. So I'm really excited about today because I've had a chance to get to know Heather a little bit online, and now I'm looking forward to understanding a little bit more about her. Heather, thanks for taking the time to join us today. Really excited to hear your story and chat. For those people that are not familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you serve, and then in a moment here, I want to dive into your latest book because I'm really curious about that. But tell us a little bit about Heather.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. Whoever that person was, thanks for the connection.
Absolutely.
I acknowledge that. I've been, I got in the marketing space, believe it or not, for 23 years. I guess 24 years now, since 2001.
Okay.
And I made my first dollar online in '01. And I made my first million online in '05.
Congratulations.
And then I had my first bankruptcy in '07. So, hey,
I've been there. I know that roller coaster. Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster. And I've been on this trajectory for a long time. And I think pretty much in every role possible, from being in the front to being behind the scenes, writing books, helping other people build their businesses. Mm-hmm. And everything in between. So currently what I'm doing, I think it's a very long story, but
that's okay.
Currently what I'm doing now is I'm like yourself, I'm really doubling down on AI and the future of AI specifically. And I've recently launched something called AI Boss Club, which I'm super excited about. And where I'm focused on is the future. I'm similar to you. We were talking before we started recording, where you and I probably have seen a lot of trends that happened. And I'm like, God, I wish I was on that trend. Why did I not? So there's a lot of that, I think, in my background. And so for myself, where my future is and where I'm focusing on is really helping specifically female entrepreneurs and women over the age of 45 to tap into AI. I feel like particularly that demographic for me, where I'm focusing on, is because they're freaked out over AI. They don't understand it. And so I feel like that's the market that I could really help and serve. And so we're also building out an AI sales consultancy certification program. So that's where I'm focused now. But definitely in the last couple of years, I've been like doubling down on teaching people how to do podcasting, teaching people how to really get their voice out there. Mm-hmm. And then for the last 3 years, I've become a master of Go High Level. So that's been my big thing, technology-wise, because I've been around long enough to know when Keep was Infusionsoft and
oh yes, yes, absolutely.
Before ClickFunnels existed, and I've been around that long. So I used to do Dreamweaver. I mean, so just to give you a sense of the past, right? I think people like you and I we still are on the cutting edge. And one thing that I am, and just who I am in the world, is I'm an early adopter. I'm just one of those people. I think you probably are too. We just adopt things really early and we love to create. And I find it funny. I just have this story because I think it's hilarious. My dad is that way. My father is that way. And, when you're growing up, you have no idea. But my dad was one of those people that, so after VHS tapes, which I know you remember, we had
Oh, yes,
the
I do.
beta. Right,
Oh,
then we
yeah.
had the VHS tapes. Okay. And then the next trajectory was not the disc. It was actually these big, huge, big discs. They were like
I
massive
remember like
records.
laser discs, I think they called them. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And my dad it was like $1,500 for the laser disc. And so we would go to Blockbuster and instead of going to the VHS line, we would go to the laser disc line. Like he was that guy. Like, no, we're getting the laser, the latest thing, and I look back now and I'm like, that's probably where I got it from. I was always on that, like, what's the next thing? So
Absolutely. Well, I
you
love
remember
what
those days? Remember those days?
Oh, I do. I do. I've got you beat by a few years. I definitely remember those days. And I so respect what you're saying about trying to catch that wave. I've watched and participated in so many waves, but never been at the forefront to surf on the front edge of that. And as we
Yeah.
were talking pre-show, that was one of the big things with me after been in the digital marketing field for way too long. It was, how can we take advantage of this? Because I think, and I'm guessing, we've not talked about this, but from what I've read about your stuff and that I think you would probably agree that the thing that's so cool about AI is that those entrepreneurs and business people and just everybody, when you're 45 and older, probably for the first time in our life, has a technology come out that actually can be used better by somebody who's 45 and older than by somebody who's under 30. Because, technology has always been, oh, the young people are going to take care of that. But because AI amplifies our skill and experience, having that skill and that experience that we can amplify, which, let's face it, tends to happen in our 40s and 50s,
Right.
that means then we can add so much value. Just yesterday, I actually interviewed Michael Hyatt. I don't know if you know Michael Hyatt, the author and
Yes.
business person. And Michael's 69, he's turning 70. And one of the things he shared in our interview was the fact that, again, he finds that based on his experience, he's been a CEO of Thomas Nelson Publisher. He's like 17 times New York Times bestseller list. That experience that he has now, AI allows him to amplify that so much more. And you kind of refer to that. I love that. I'd love to hear a little bit more. Let's dive into your book first, because I love the title of it and everything else. UnCage Yourself. That just came out last year, if I remember right. Tell us a little bit about that and how that fits into. Again, I love all the stuff you've taught over the years about how to build that platform and how to build a community and become that influencer. Where does UnCage fit into that and what you're doing today?
Well, I will say the more high tech we go as a society, the more high touch we all desire.
Yes.
And so, and if someone doesn't believe me, that's okay. Just look at the times during COVID and anybody who was involved in Clubhouse. Clubhouse was an app. And, I thank God for Clubhouse. I doubled down on that. I think I was on that thing for at least 20 hours of the day. And it was my connection point to people. I felt so alone when everything happened in the shutdown. And it was oh my God, I'm connected still to people. I didn't feel I was alone in the world. And here we are all on an app. And yet there's people from that app today that I can honestly say are dear friends, friends. And I've never met them. I've never met them in person,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I've never had lunch with them. I've never, and yet I consider them dear human beings I love. So my point is the more high tech we go, the more high touch we desire. And I think that from our world, we used to teach how to sell information, right?
Yeah.
How to sell. And then that guru or that expert is the person that's going to teach you the expertise. Well, now with Chatty, that's really kind of like dropped. Just to give you like an example, like a real world example. I was talking to this guy who does SaaSpreneurship, and he focuses on trainers, right? Helping trainers,
Sure.
like gym trainers. And so I said to him, it's funny you focus on that because, I've come from the bodybuilding world. I had a bodybuilding business. I've had thousands of trainers, not thousands, but like 10, a lot for a
Yep.
lifetime. And I said to him, the other day I went into Chatty and said, you are an expert trainer. You're an IFBB bodybuilding pro. I am this, my body weight's this, my body, all the details. Give me a 3-week split of a workout. And it like busted it out. And I'm like, trainers now really are, all they really are is accountability and community. That's really their training. Yeah, that's all they're really selling now. Because now with the data, you can put in quote unquote physicality, all the details, even if they're allergic to stuff, their bodies, all their body information, and bust out this is what they should be doing on a workout. So really, what's a trainer now? It's not expertise. And that goes for a lot of different areas. So it's like if I was talking to a trainer, I would say you're selling accountability and community and cheerleading. Really. So that goes for us as digital marketers and in AI. You're selling community connection, collaboration. I'm in community learning this next thing and then getting ideas from other people how I can implement this in my life. So that's what I think now we're selling. So the world of Uncage Yourself, believe it or not, this is a COVID baby, book.
I love it.
I started during COVID and thought, I'm going to bust this book out like in 3 months, 2 years later. Actually 3 years later, what happened with this book, it was taking everything that I've done for 20 years and helping other people create platforms and create my own platform and how do you put that in a box? How do you put that in a box? So it's really the UnCage formula, Uncage Yourself, but the sub headline kind of says it everything. The fearless method to turn your knowledge into market influence, impact, and income to live a badass life of ultimate freedom. If I rewrote this headline for today, I would just add one word, which is the fearless method to turn your knowledge into market influence, impact, and income to build a community. Because I don't think people come to us anymore for our necessary knowledge. I think they come to us for our wisdom and and leadership and the community that we serve, if that makes sense. Because knowledge now is, I now have a lawyer in my hand. Like I don't have to, just like you're a lawyer in Texas and I have this and they, So it's, and I'm not saying, whatever, but you get my point. Like it
absolutely.
Really has lowered the barrier of entry in the world of knowledge. And so where do we go? Why do we buy? Why do we move into situations? And why do people buy us? And it's really no longer about I have the knowledge or I'm the guru. It's about I've curated a community of like minds that you may be interested in hanging out with and learning from and being community.
No, I love what you're saying there, Heather, about the community. I think that's really what, first of all, it is what we crave. But with AI, you're right. The knowledge itself isn't the value necessarily any longer. I mean, just this morning, I'm working with my team and we were trying to figure out how do we do something in a particular app. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, let's just ask Perplexity. And Perplexity told us, click here, click here, click here. So that knowledge, knowing how to use that app wasn't necessarily the value. It was knowing how to get the knowledge. But then, as you said, it's that community that you create around you that I think is so incredibly important. And reminds me of the best coaches I've had in my career have always been those that not only were very good at what they did, but they also nurtured the best communities to be part of, because those communities became the long-term value of what we were doing.
And just to add to that, the word nurture.
Please.
So, and this is just my take as a woman in the industry for a long time. I find that even the words from our old school marketing worlds, which is launch and scale, I think those days are kind of changing. I don't say gone, but changing, because now, like you said, the skill set now is nurture. The skill set now is birthing your idea, allowing your idea to come forward, and then nurturing that idea, nurturing the community. Because you can't really launch a community. You can open the door, but and so inside of the conversation of that there is new energy on the planet, it's very spiritual, and there's a different feminine divine energy. I think part of this is the actual value in the world now is not about launching and scaling. It's about opening doors, invitation, nurturing, and growing. That
Yes.
literally is the new value. And so that's the kind and we are technically in the world of Aquarius now, like, and that's very spiritual. But I do believe when we change the frequency of the planet, we change what is valuable in the world. And as my coach, Joe Sugarman, I literally, he's the forward of my book. He was a dear friend of mine. He's no longer on the planet. He died during COVID. But he was, I think, one of the masters of direct response marketing. And he said to me a long time ago, while we're having, he loved soup and salad place in Vegas. Like, that was his thing. He was a
I love it. Yeah.
multi-millionaire. I'd be like, where do you want to go to dinner? He's like, I want to go to soup and salad. But anyway,
I love it.
he's so cute. So he'd have like spinach in his teeth, and he'd say, Heather, if you want more money, you focus on serving more and adding value. And then, as Jim Rohn said, you're paid for your value in the marketplace. Well, the marketplace, the humans, right? What we value is changing, right?
Absolutely.
What we value is changing. It's not really knowledge. It's community, connection, collaboration. It's impact. So if you really listen to that, and a lot of people are leaning in, you're leaning in, I'm leaning in, but not everyone sees that because our structure, even just to go further, our school system, right, is knowledge is power.
Yes.
Knowledge is the value. And I just read an article in the Wall Street Journal, I think a week ago, about how Harvard graduates aren't finding jobs right now. Harvard. And that's because that knowledge from Harvard or Yale really isn't that valuable right now.
Precisely.
Right? You're like, whoa, dude. When I was reading this article, I'm like, whoa, they interviewed some people, some kids. I say kids. They have MBAs from Yale and Harvard, and they're not getting jobs. And they interviewed, of course, the companies, like the regular consulting companies that hire. And they're like, well, we don't really need that knowledge right now.
Right. Well, and again, things are changing, like you said.
Things are
changing rapidly.
Yeah. And it's the value that what we value has changed.
Yes.
And because people start freaking out, oh my God, things are changing. And all they see is the loss. And I'm like, well, go back to Jim Rohn, 1980s. You're paid for your value in the marketplace. If you really structure that down, the word value changes. What we value in 1983 versus what we value in 1999 to what we value in 2025 is vastly different. So yeah, that's the key. It's not that it's bad or wrong or AI is bad or wrong. It's the value is shifting. And I actually spent it was an hour and a half. I sat down with coffee and I watched this. It was fascinating. I highly recommend if someone wants just to do this on their Saturday. I watched the NVIDIA CEO. He was the opening for CES. It was an hour and a half long. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It was fascinating because he was showing what the new value is. And, it was AI agents. It was these new things. But if you really listen to what he's saying, he's not saying it's replacing humans. It's just a new value. And it's a new era of what we value, So I can go on and on, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's really
and I think, but you're absolutely right, and I think it's one of the reasons again that I get so excited about AI. You're right. There are people that look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, the world's ending. We're all going to lose our jobs. This is going to be terrible." I look at it on the other end of it's like, will there be people that are displaced by AI? Yes, absolutely there will. But most of those people that are going to be displaced are going to have more opportunities to move into new opportunities should they choose to do so. The ones that are at risk are the same people, and you're probably not old enough to remember this as I am, but these are the same people that when PCs came out and they said, I'm not going to get rid of my typewriter and my adding machine, those people didn't lose their jobs forever, but they either learned to use a word processor over the next couple of years, or they found a different job.
You're so cute. Oh my God.
you know?
I remember those days. Yes, but my dad was the early adopter, right? So my
Yeah. So you,
dad
yeah.
had it in 1984. We had an Apple computer, the ones that were like square. I literally played games on the Apple computer 1984 in my dad's office because yeah, so he was the early adopter. I had computers in our house from 1984 on. He was actually, this is even taking me way back just because I love these stories. My dad was such an early adopter that he had a phone, like it was one of those, a regular phone installed in his car, in his Buick, in the center in 1981.
Oh, wow. I
He was one of
love
the
it.
only people in Texas, and his friends didn't believe him, so he would go where the railroads were, and he'd pick up the phone, probably like $10 a second.
I
But
was,
he'd
yeah,
pick up
saying
the
that
phone
back
and
in
be
the day,
like,
that was crazy.
I'm calling you from the rail. It's innate in me. It's like it's born in me to be the early adoption. So I find it funny. But look at the times we did see it's possible to drive around and actually have a conversation, and here we're at. But I think, and you and I both know this, the speed at which the technology is going is 10 times faster.
Oh, yeah.
It's 10 times faster. And I think there's going to be two types of people. People are that going to adapt quickly and move into that and see how the change can serve them, or people are going to go in fear. So they're going to
Yeah.
be in fear, or they're going to go, where's the community connection, collaboration I can learn from other people like ourselves? And the good news is, I mean, you and I feel like we're probably a mile or two. That's what I look at anyway. I look at like I'm barely a mile ahead of people.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm,
absolutely.
it's not like I'm at 10 miles. I'm like maybe half a mile, like that. And I'm okay
No, I
with that.
couldn't. Yeah, oh, absolutely, because it's changing so rapidly. I'm speaking at an event in April, and last week the event organizer reached out and said, "We need a copy of your presentation." And I'm going to go, "It's 4 months away." They're like, "Yeah, but what are you going to talk about?" And I said, "Well, I'm running a 5-hour track on AI with 3 other people." "Yeah, we know. What are you doing?" And they're great people. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
they're
I
like,
get
"But
it.
we need to know what you're talking about." And I'm like, "I won't know until a week prior." And I said, "That still could change." I said, "Look, when OpenAI or DeepSeek or Anthropic or Google come out with a new announcement, oftentimes it changes everything, and that may literally happen while I'm on stage, and we could
Yeah.
change the presentation." And they're like, "Oh, we're just not used to that." And I'm like, "I get it, but that's AI today. It is really changing
Yeah.
that rapidly." I spoke
It
in
is changing
Baltimore.
that rapidly. It keeps me on my toes. I got to be
Oh
honest.
yeah,
And as someone who's an early adopter, I feel like I'm so behind. And then I'll go talk to someone, like a neighbor, and I'm like, oh, I'm 10 miles ahead of this person. I'm good, And it's not like a diss. It's just that I'm just such on the cutting edge of everything, and things change so fast
yeah,
that we have to be on the cutting edge. But again, it's not about the knowledge. I have to keep going back to I have to remind myself of that inside of the book UnCage Yourself, it really was about me laying out the structure of the formula that still works today. And if you don't
right.
mind, I'm going to say one more
No, feel
example
free.
because I think it lands for people. Now, I'm from the South. I'm born and raised in the South, and I'm a Baptist girl gone bad. So I'm just
I love it. Oh, that's a great tagline. I love it.
I'm a Baptist girl from Houston. I can turn it on if I want to, but I'm definitely a Baptist girl gone bad. And so Joel Osteen, most people have heard of that name.
Oh,
He's a
sure.
very renowned pastor. If you're listening, you haven't, feel free to
Yep.
look him up. World renowned. Why? Why does his church, okay? Why does his church 250 million a year? It is the number one church by revenue in the United States of America, if not North America, if not entire America, may even be the world. Why? Does he have a special book? Does he have a secret Bible that other pastors don't have? Does he have a different Jesus or Mary that other people don't? Does he have the different knowledge? He doesn't. They all have the
Exactly.
same knowledge. They all have the same book. They all have the same story. So what makes his church different? And when I ask this question, sometimes people go, his teeth. I'm like, Teeth are that good, I've met him actually. He's really short. He's about like 5'5", 5'6". He's a short, small guy. Very nice, big hair. Very nice. I've met him, but no, it's on his teeth. What's the difference? And what he has done, he actually comes from his background before he became the pastor and took over his father's church. He was in marketing and broadcasting. He was in radio. He actually worked for a radio station in Houston. So he understands the power of platform. He understands the power of content and being everywhere. That was the value. So it's not that he's the best pastor. I've definitely heard some amazing pastors in the South, especially Atlanta in the South, that are way more compelling than him. But he was able to understand the power of the value, and the value is be able to touch as many people's lives possible through the content. And so I say that because even though AI has changed us and is changing the world, we as human beings haven't changed that much. We haven't changed, right? We have new tools, but we haven't changed. And the biblical and the connection, the community and collaboration, that's what that specific church is connected to. And I look at Tony Robbins too, but it's a good example because people always think, what makes this church better than that church when they have the same book, when they have the same content, when they talk about the same person named Jesus and the same Christianity. What makes the unique difference? And that goes back to the UnCage formula, which is what I lay out, which is and I learned it from Joel and Tony Robbins and all the people that I worked for. I learned the formula. It's a formula. And when I met Joel, I met him personally, and I said to him, hey, you and I know the same people. And I started dropping names of what I call non-secular, meaning non-Christian pastors. They were more in what I call our world. And I started dropping names. And he goes, yeah, because he knows the power of marketing. So I think even though, honestly, and even though AI is here, he's not going to change. He does evergreen marketing during the COVID years. He never said the C word, ever, ever. He said, we are in changing times. We are in times of change. And so he can then take that content and be anywhere at every time. So my point of this is that even though AI is changing, and even though that presentation you're going to do in 3 or 4 or 5 months or 6 months or 8 months of the tools of the current AI, the end of the day, people are going to come to you or come to me because that we are in the community, not necessarily because we know the tools.
So true. I'd love to get your perspective, Heather. So, we're in 2025 as we're recording this and as it's going out. And I've already had business people come in to me going, is it too late? Did I miss it? Is it too late? I'd love to get your perspective on that. I know I have mine and I'll be happy to share, but that business owner that comes and says, is it too late? Did I miss it? What advice do you give to them?
Yeah, we're just getting started. You know that. Yeah, we're just getting started. We're just cutting the surface. And that's what I loved about NVIDIA's, hour and a half CES talk. He was really laying out where we're headed. But I feel like the universe knows that we are human beings and you can't give it to us all at once because we can't digest it. We can't consume it. And we have to kind of consume things. Like first we go to Chatty and then we're like, oh, there's this thing. And then that's what we need. I mean, I feel like the technology is coming out fast, but it's coming out in the way that we can digest it. And there's going to be some of us going to be leaders in that to help people. How do they use it? How do they use the technology inside of these different things? But no, business owners, we're just getting started. The number one, I think, or number two, now this was a week ago, so who knows, it's changed. But
it's still true, yes.
The research was 2 weeks ago, so it's old. But I think AI integrator and AI consultant were the number one, number two. I'm not sure which one was which. Number one and number two fastest growing jobs. And I just want to acknowledge when I say that, just remember what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Did it say the number one job was an MBA from Harvard?
No.
No.
In fact, we could go in an entire separate podcast, I think, just about how is AI going to impact higher education. And I think it's going to dramatically change higher education because again, certainly AI amplifies skill and experience. Don't get me wrong. A user that understands how to be a cardiologist is going to be able to use AI in a better way in that context, that vein, than I can, who I don't know anything about cardiology. But for those of us that don't need to do heart surgery, then it doesn't matter. We can learn so much about it. I mean, I just was in my group, somebody the other day said they're having health issues. They went and got a bunch of blood tests done. They got back this big report from the doctor. Didn't make any sense. Doctor didn't make any sense to them. They're like, I don't know what this all means. And putting privacy aside for a moment, because I know we're going to tweak a few people when I say this, they uploaded their blood test results to ChatGPT and they asked it to analyze and explain it to them. And it did so in a manner that they said was better than they'd ever had it explained to them by any medical professional.
Yeah.
And while, yes, there's a need for those medical professionals, I'm not saying there isn't, the communication of that data, of that knowledge and what to do with it, like you were talking about, putting together a meal plan or a diet plan or an exercise regimen, all of that stuff now is where we're looking for it and how it's being presented to us is different. And no longer are we in a scenario or a society where just because you've got letters after your name, it means that you're going to be more respected. Because if you can't communicate that well, since AI now can communicate that well, you're going to be at a loss. I
agree. So I've had recently this year, I've been doing a lot of health and I've been doing blood work like every 3 months. And I have a nurse, I have a practitioner, I have someone I'm working with.
Sure.
Order. But there's a lot, we only have so much time together. And so, I did the same thing. I uploaded my blood work and I said, okay, analyze from this, and it did. And it gave me more, I felt more empowered. I was like, oh, this makes sense. Now I understand why we're on this trajectory. And then I went down, a rabbit hole on something and learned something else and bought a supplement that was in alignment with supporting me, right? That I didn't even know it existed. So I think it's empowering. It's empowering versus giving our power away to just the doctor, giving our power away only to the Harvard, the faculty. Like, the power's with us, and we don't have to just say they're the only right answer.
Yes.
We're open. You know what I mean? I'm right now in the middle of an old legal battle in Texas. It's just an old legal battle, and I'm having to all this stuff and contact the court. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm like Chatty, you are a lawyer in Texas. Now, at any point, if I feel like I need a lawyer to step in, I will. But right now, this is just asking questions of the court and trying to get them to give me something. You know what I mean? I don't need to be hiring an attorney at $150 an hour just to send them an email. And so I think that this comes to a point where I feel empowered right now. I feel empowered through the process. They've never said to me, hey, we can't talk to you because you're not a lawyer. I'm the person on record. And they've been very good. And anytime they say something, I don't know what it is. So I feel like there's a moment of empowerment around AI. And so whoever asks you about, am I late? Late for what? Late for empowerment of oneself? Late for stepping in and helping businesses? I will say this, there's a stat, again, came out 2 weeks ago, so who knows, but I believe it's still probably true, that only 5% of small businesses today are even using AI. 5%. 5%. Okay, you and I both know how long it took businesses to step into just being, have a website, okay?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, there's still businesses that don't have them, Yeah.
There's still some of them like, I don't have a website. I'm like, oh my God. How long does it take sometimes for people to change? So we are nowhere even near in the world of early adoption. Like, there's a bell curve. We're still at that early spot of early adoption completely. Yes. So we're not even near. I think the biggest, if I was telling anybody, even parents who have kids who are like, what do I do with this kid? Teach them, get them to learn AI and go learn how to integrate AI. It's called an AI integrator. An AI integrator, how do you integrate it into their current business? That is a massive field because, yes, we know about it. Yes, we like it, but how the hell do we integrate it?
Yeah, what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That begs a question I love to ask, and that is that business owner that says, okay, this is my year. I'm going to integrate AI. I'm not going to let it bypass me because I know if I wait another year, it may be too late, or it's certainly going to be much later than it needs to be. What advice would you give to that business owner? I know I find on my side, Heather, people tend to fall in one of two camps. We've already talked about I'm going to stick my head in the sand and I'm not going to do anything with it. That's not the right place to be.
I found them right there.
The other side of it tends to be I'm going to do everything and I'm going to do it in the next 3 days. And that doesn't practically work because it's simply not possible. So what advice would you give to those business leaders that are listening and going, okay, I need to move forward with AI. I need to do that integration that you just talked about. What advice would you give them of what they could do maybe over the next quarter, the next 91 days or so? What should they be looking at trying to do in their business to effectively integrate AI? Any general advice?
Yeah, so let's look at business, right? You have front-end lead generation, you have actually the service, some kind of service that's the actual service, right? And then you have the customer relationship process. So for me, I think the blood or the heart of any business is sales.
Yes.
So what's the fastest, easiest way to get someone to convert into sales? That's where I would put my time. And so that's why I'm creating an AI sales consultant certification, because that's where the money is. Yes, you can go into operations and all these fun things, but how do we get leads and how do we convert leads fastest and how do we use AI? So that's where I focus on with my clients. That's why I love Go High Level specifically. I'm an agency owner, is because that's where they're focused. Yeah, they're focused on the AI agents where how do you talk to people on leads, or if they call in, how do you get an appointment? The AI bot scheduler, the conversation on SMS or on the front end chat, how do you get that lead into a scheduled call? So I think if any business is listening, I don't care how big or how small, it's how can we integrate AI on the front end? And I'll never forget this. I was actually on a call over the summer with a girlfriend of mine she just very much knows because it's new sales real estate world. There's a whole world there. And she talked about there's this position, it's called the OC or something. Who knows? I call it a front end salesperson. Basically, anytime a lead comes in from the website, this person, they're paid $60,000 a year to basically reach out and call this person. That's their whole job. Wow. And their whole job is to get them scheduled to come into the new sales real estate community, right? That's their whole job. Yep. It's not the real estate agent, right? It's the in-between. And I got on the phone with one of the community owners, basically real estate community owner, and he's like, these people don't answer their phone, they don't call them back, the lead dies, all these things. I was like, we can completely replace that with AI voice, 24/7, 365 days a week, answer the call, get them booked. We can have a all these things.
Never sick, replace. Never has an attitude, Yeah, absolutely.
And they're like, well, are you saying that we can replace a $60,000 employee with this? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's why I said there will be people that get displaced. There's no doubt about it. When the printing press came out, there were people that, the people that were scribing and they got displaced. I grew up in an Amish community. I wasn't Amish, but there were a lot of Amish in the community. And, it was probably one of the few communities in America that had a place that made buggy whips because there were Amish people that needed them. And, back in the 1800s, before the internal combustion engine, there were probably buggy whip factories, and some of those people got displaced. But you know what? They learned new jobs, they learned new things. And I have always believed and found, and as I've studied history, I've always found that technology advancements, whether that was the printing press, whether that was the PC on desks, whether that was the internet, whatever, they create more opportunities than they take away. So do they displace people? Yes. And for the naysayers that occasionally listen to my podcast and love the message me going, Jonathan, you're crazy. People are going to lose their jobs. Sure, there will be some people that do. And I don't like that, but you know what? That's life. Those people that decide to embrace the change, though, and go, okay, I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to learn how to use this. The same way that the people that used to have typewriters and adding machines now started using word processors and Lotus 1, 2, 3 on their computers, they found more opportunity, not less. And it opened up more opportunities than existed prior to that. And I think AI is going to do that just exponentially for
Yeah.
our communities and for our economy.
It's again, I know you're not the one complaining, but in the world of people are going to lose their jobs, I would reframe that to say people are shifting jobs.
Yeah, I
You
agree
know,
with you
yeah.
entirely.
And I
Yeah.
realize it's not you saying that,
Oh
and
no,
I
that's okay.
understand in
It's a good
programming,
discussion to have.
like
Well, and I
people
think
are going to
it's
shift their jobs, not and that just comes to human being. We're human beings, and we don't want things to change. You know what I'm saying? So I have family members like
absolutely.
that. When I went to go visit them in Texas for Christmas, I was like, oh wow, I think I'm the only person in this entire family that is open to AI. They were like not into it, you know.
Yeah,
So I was like,
absolutely.
okay,
Yeah.
you're already, it is what it is, right? Like,
Well,
okay.
again, and I get it. People, when they don't understand something, it's easy to live in fear when you don't
Yeah.
understand. And I just want to encourage people, if you don't understand today, it's easy to learn. Just ask AI. It'll tell you most of what you need to know about it. And it's not scary. It's not going to bite. And I think most people are going to find it has huge value.
I do want to
So
say one thing too.
please.
I was watching CNBC. I'm a weird one. I watch really weird reviews. I was watching CNBC, and they were doing a lot of coverage on Davos. I watched that, and they had an interview by the owner of Salesforce, and his interview was fascinating. I recommend that maybe you watch it. It was only about 15 minutes long, but he said the CRM business is dead. It's a lot to say from someone coming from Salesforce.
Coming from Salesforce, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And he said, I am so excited about the future. We are now an AI agent integrator for businesses. And
Oh,
I
wow.
said, wow, that's a man who is reframed.
Yeah.
And he's excited. He's like, I'm excited. We're doing this. We're so excited. But we are no longer a CRM. We are now an AI integrator for businesses, and we are shifting. We've already shifted. And that's early adopter innovator. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
He's like, we have shifted. This is the deal. We are moving. We've already moved, you know. And I thought, wow, what a great reframe. That's a great reframe. And
It is.
that's
Well,
where
and
we're at.
I think it's great advice for every business owner, every business leader, every employee that's listening to this or watching this. It's time to reframe. And I think that's if they take nothing else, I think it's a great place for us to kind of bring the plane in for a landing.
Sure.
It's time to reframe, and it's reframe the way we think. Heather, if people want to reach out to you, they want to connect with you, they want to buy your book, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, Heather?
So they can go to heatherhavenwood.com. I will say I wanted to do a gift, to give a gift of my book, the downloaded version. They can go to heathersfreebook.com and
Awesome.
just opt in, and they get the book for free. So Heather's with an S, heathersfreebook.com. And yeah, they get a little bit of know more about me if they're interested.
Well, thank you for that free book offer. That's amazing. We will definitely share that with our community as well. And I'm going to go out there right now and get it myself. I want to see that. But I'm also going
Very
to be
storytelling. I wanted to say that. Like, I took a bite from Harvey, not Harvey Weinstein. Harvey. The book was Swim with the Sharks.
Harvey McKay. Yes,
Yeah,
love Harvey
thank
McKay.
you, Harvey
Yes.
McKay.
Yeah.
How he did his book was storytelling. And so that's how I did this book, is I did content storytelling, content story. And that's because I feel like, we connect as human beings with story. So I just wanted to share that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time today, Heather. Been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully next time I'm in the Houston area, we can connect, and I'd love to chat. Generally, I just go through the airport for about an hour, and that's about it. But so thank you so much. Been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. And for those of you that have been watching and listening, I want to say thank you. We love having you participate and join us in on these conversations. We'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe and give us your feedback. With that, everybody make it a great day, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye, everybody.